Yo, what up guys and girls? Today I'll be going over our exact step-by-step process on how we generate leads for B2B companies, for ourselves, for our clients, and how we do it, at least in my opinion, extremely successfully. Better than probably 99% of companies out there. So yeah, we're gonna be going over that. We'll go over the exact workflow, then we'll go over all the tools we use, all the workflows we use, all the automations we use, and then I'll also give you a step-by-step implementation plan that you can take away with you after this video and complete it so you can start using this exact system yourself. But yeah, I think also really important note to make here. I think there's a lot of videos on Outbound and Legion and cold email and all this stuff on YouTube being made every single day. But most of those people who make those kind of videos, they have not touched a cold outbound campaign or cold email campaign in years. So the information often is a bit outdated. But this is something that we are using right now to this date. At the time of recording, December 2025, we have been using it for the whole year. We're going to be using it for the next year, and it works really well. And we are using it for our own marketing agencies and sales agencies. We're using that to book hundreds of calls every single month. We're using this for early stage and growth stage SaaS startups, 9-figure companies, pre-revenue companies. We are using it for service-based companies. And pretty much if you're a B2B company and you sell something that is higher value than just a few $100, like this is going to work for you extremely well. But yeah, let's get into it and make sure you stick around for the whole video, because in the end, at some secret point, I'll give you a really great resource to take away with you for free. But yeah, so this is pretty much the structure that we use ourselves. Obviously, it depends case by case, client by client. Are we doing it for ourselves or are we doing it for someone else? But usually, if you are not already running a really dialed in outbound organization, we recommend you to utilize 2 or 3 cold email or cold outbound channels. So this would be cold email, this would be cold calling, and then we'll also go over one additional workflow. And this is pretty much what we are going to be building up together. So we need to be able to build infrastructure. I'll show you how we do that. We need to be able to build a list of leads, like list of key accounts and list of leads that match our ICP. We need to be able to send cold emails. We need to be able to cold call. We need to be able to do pre-qualification and pre-call automation. So we need to be able to track and do reporting and all that stuff, right? So I have made this really nice, really cool looking resource for this. Normally I just use Google Sheets, but nowadays because of AI, building these kind of funnels is super cool and super easy. We just do that. But yeah, here we pretty much have all the tools. And by the way, if you want to learn how to build these kinds of funnels or landing pages or cool shit like this for your own agency, make sure that you check out Agent Velocity from the link in description, because this is what we do as well. But yeah, here's pretty much all of the main high-level overview workflows. We have lead list building. Here we use Sales Navigator, ICPs, and Full Enrich, and we'll go to these a bit more in depth. Email outbound. Here we use for infrastructure. We use Zapmail right now. We also are using warm inboxes, which are really good, and premium inboxes. But Zapmail is what I'm mainly using right now, and we are using Instantly for warming them up and sequencing. We are using HeyReach for everything LinkedIn related. For pre-call sequences, pretty basic stack, we are using Calendly and Kit.com. And then for CRM and cold calls, we're using Close.io for everything there, for dialing and for CRM. And then, of course, to link everything together, we are using Zapier, but you can also use Make or N8N or whatever the fuck you use. I just use Zapier because it's easy and I don't really care about this that much, but you can use Make or N8N or whatever. Right? And pretty much how it works, pretty much what the workflow looks like is here in the beginning. We have to build our lead list, as I mentioned and as I showed. So what we do is we always build the initial lead list, or I always build the initial lead list using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And the reason why I use LinkedIn Sales Navigator is because it usually in 90% of cases has the most up-to-date and accurate data. Because if you look at Apollo or ZoomInfo or any other major lead scraping platform, usually they also get their data from LinkedIn. So if you just go straight to the source, usually that's the most accurate one. The only exception is if we are scraping leads for an ICP that isn't LinkedIn heavy, or their data can be found somewhere else better. So sometimes, for example, if we are reaching out to startups or specific SaaS companies, we might go to Crunchbase, or we might go to GetLatka, or if we are reaching out to e-commerce stores, we are probably going to lead stores or store leads, I mean. And there are, of course, expectations, or if we are reaching out to like local blue collar, like professional service firms, then we probably go to Google Maps. But for 90% of our use cases, we always start with LinkedIn Sales Navigator. We build a list of key accounts there and list of prospects there, extremely simple. And then we use ICPs, and there's once again, a million different tools to do this. We just use ICPs because we already have a relationship with them and we worked with them for a long time, but there's a million different tools about this. And we just go to ICPs and we use that to scrape the Sales Navigator URLs, right? So we are not using it to scrape the actual emails, but we just need the sales like URLs because you can't scrape directly from Sales Navigator. And then we use a tool called Full Enrich to enrich all the leads with verified emails, triple verified emails, and phone numbers. And Full Enrich, if you don't do cold calling, you don't need to use Full Enrich, but I just like it because it's really simple. It's all in one place, and you can get waterfall enriched emails and you can get really high quality phone numbers. It is a bit more expensive. I'd say around 55 cents per lead with a phone number. If you don't need a phone number, it's 5 cents. But anyone who actually has done any amount of cold call and actually has made good money with it, like, you know that it's like, even if you can get the leads a bit cheaper, it's worth it to pay more if you get higher quality because it's more efficient, right? But if you're not doing cold calling, you can use Clay or whatever you want to use. But obviously, if you really want to make money, just rip Full Enrich. Like, the ROI is still there. I always hear like people say, or I often hear people say something along the lines of, 55 cents per lead is so expensive. It's terrible. But it really is not. Because if you think about it, like if you go here, think about this. Let's say you have 1,000 leads that you scrape, or let's say 10,000 for the sake of higher numbers. 10,000 leads, and you are paying 55 cents per lead, right? So this will obviously mean that you would spend around $550 on this lead list, right? If I'm not completely wrong. 10 is 5, yeah, exactly, 550 USD would this lead list be. So people think, I can get an email, I can get 10,000 emails from Apollo for like $5. Why would I pay 500? But think about this. If you have 10,000 leads with triple verified emails, you have verified all the catch-alls, and you have verified phone numbers, if you can't make $550 back from that list, you have a lot bigger issues, right? If I go and if we run cold email campaigns and if we call all of these 10,000 leads, first of all, it's going to take us a long time. Second of all, we are going to book hundreds of meetings from this. We're going to book hundreds of meetings from these 10,000, like massive amounts. We'll probably book like on the low end, like 300 calls, probably more. But let's say we book 300 calls from this. How fucking, like, where else? You can't get calls for this cheap anywhere else. Even if you take into consideration infrastructure, email sending, everything, you're like on maximum paying like $10, $20 per a call booked into your calendar. Go to Facebook ads, you're paying 10 times that money. So it's filthy cheap. It's super cheap. And then obviously if I have 300 calls, let's say worst case scenario, only half of them show up to the call. And let's say only 100 of them are actually qualified for our offer. If I have 100 qualified sales meetings that all show up, if I can't make $550, if I can't make $5,000 from these leads, I'm cooked anyways, right? So we can obviously make like hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue from these calls. So obviously I have no issue in investing a few $100 into actual lead lists. So yeah, I just wanted to mention this because I see this oftentimes, people crying like, phone numbers are so expensive, I can't use this or I can't use that. You can. It's not an expense, it's an investment. You just have to make sure your sales pros and offer is good enough for that investment to be worth it to make, right? But yeah, you go and you build your lead list, and then obviously we are going to start doing some multi-channel outreach. So immediately we're going to start ripping some outreach here. And here we use 3 different tools. For email sending, we use Instant.ai. There's obviously a lot of really good email senders, but I just like Instantly because I have been using them since they launched, and I'm great friends with the founders, and I think it's an amazing company. So we use Instantly. You can use something else. And we sent usually a 3 email sequence. So we sent the initial email immediately like this, boom, hey John, are you interested in XYZ offer? And then we send a follow-up 2 days later, hey John, did you see this? And then we send a breakup email 5 days later. Hey John, seems like you're not interested. Is there someone else better to reach out about this? No worries, if not, I won't be reaching out again. And this is pretty much our normal sequence. Once again, we do thousands of email campaigns every single year. Thousands of email campaigns we consult on or work on ourselves. Obviously, it's not always the same, but this is like the standard. If you want to make sure you crush it, just use this structure. And as you might also notice, like we are not using Clay here at all. Obviously, our team is a Clay Studio partner. We are like our like cold email and Clay team is some of the best Clay experts in the whole of Europe and in the whole world. But still, like usually in the beginning stages, I'm not using Clay myself personally. I like to just see how well it works without it. And then if we want to amplify it, we use Clay. But you don't need any fancy Clay tools in here. You can use just basic stuff. So yeah, email instantly.ai. Then we use LinkedIn or HeyReach for LinkedIn. And what we are doing on LinkedIn is we are not sending any DMs. What we just do is we take our lead list. So this is our lead list. Here's 1,000 leads. We put it into the email campaign here. And then we also, at the same time, we put it into a LinkedIn connection campaign. We are not even sending them a LinkedIn DM. We are just sending them a connection request. We are automatically going and liking their post, visiting their profile every few days. So then when they received our email, they think in their head like, oh shit, like this is probably the guy who sent me a connection request, or I've seen his face somewhere, right? But we are not sending in LinkedIn DMs. You probably can, and you can probably make a lot of money with it. We just use it as something that we run in the background to make ourselves more familiar. And then for cold calling, we use close.io, right? So Close is just really great. Once again, there's a lot of great dialers, but we just like Close. I have been using it for a long time, and it just rips. And we do here 80 calls a day per SDR. So at the same time, we also do cold calls. And then, of course, all of the data, when people are responding to us and booking calls, they all go to a CRM for us to track, and that also is hosted on Close. So that's what we do. 80 calls a day per an SDR. And yeah. In terms of phase 3, so once we have this running, once we have all of these 3 channels running, we of course need to handle the responses. So if someone gives us a positive response on email, we immediately call them and respond on email, of course. But by just doing the warm calls, so by just adding this into your process, you will probably triple the amount of meetings you book. So 100% implement this. If someone says, or if someone isn't qualified right now, but they could potentially be qualified or interested in the future, we put them into a nurture sequence. And obviously, if someone says unsubscribe, we remove them from all the sequences. We don't cold call them, we don't send them a LinkedIn message, we don't email them, right? And everything is pretty much tracked in Close. It's so, like, I can't even emphasize how important it is to have a proper CRM where all of these numbers are tracked. And then, yeah, of course, once we book a meeting with someone, we book it through Calendly. Calendly activates a pre-call nurture sequence on Kit. It also activates some SAPs, so it does all the tagging and everything in Close and stuff like this. Honestly speaking, you don't have to do the fancy automations, especially in the beginning. If you're just starting out, don't bother with it. I've run this system for months myself without any automations, and it's completely fine. As long as you're not lazy and as long as you know what you're doing. This is just something that you might want to add later on as a quality of life improvement. And here, a few really important decision trees. Once again, we already went through this a little bit, but the most important thing here is when someone responds to your email saying, yeah, this is pretty interesting, don't just write back to them and say, hey, would you like to open a meeting? Call them immediately. Call them. Same minute, hey John, I just saw that you responded to me on email when I asked you about XYZ yada yada yada. Would you want to have a meeting about this later this week? Boom. Or what caught your interest? Boom. And you will triple the amount of meetings that you book. I guarantee. These are already went through, and here's of course like few edge cases. And in terms of the timeline, if you really are thinking about how long it takes to get this thing rolling, day one, you can build the whole account list on sales navigator and also the right prospects. So what companies and what prospects inside these companies, and then the LinkedIn URLs. Honestly, you can do this also the same day. So day zero, you can also do this, right? So get the LinkedIn URLs and get the data enriched on Full Enrich. Multi-channel launch, obviously this is going to be a little bit dependent on what infrastructure you already have. If you need to start infrastructure completed from scratch, it might take you a bit longer. And if you've never done this before, it might take you a few days more. But ideally speaking, we want to launch all of the outreach channels at the same time. We want to launch the LinkedIn messages at the same time, email at the same time, and we will start calling them at the same time. And then obviously everything's going to drip down from there naturally. And yeah, these are pretty much the KPIs here. KPIs that we are aiming for. 0.3% email meeting rate or email to a meeting rate, 80 calls per day per an SDR, minimum 3% conversion rate on cold calls is what we're aiming for. If you have a good SDR, you can get a lot more. When I'm personally calling, I can do like 7-8% in a lot of cases. 75% show up rates and 20% closing rates, really basic. And of course, you can always improve this. And these are all, I don't know why this is flickering like this. In terms of costs, so this is what I wanted to quickly cover. So if you want to go and deploy this system to your own agency or own company, this is what you are going to be pretty much looking at the cost. And I have like a great cost calculator there in a second that I'll go over. But your minimum email infrastructure costs is going to be around $99 a month. Plus you'll have to buy domains, but that's a one-time investment. So if you buy 10 domains, that's $120 one time. So take that into consideration. And if you want additional mailboxes through Zapmail, that's going to be a bit extra, $3 per mailbox. But this is like the minimum setup you should do, right? 30 mailboxes, you can send around 500 emails per day with that setup. We have a lot of campaigns where we run 300 mailboxes. So obviously that's going to be more expensive, but we don't really look at it as an expense. It's more of an investment because we know that we're going to make 100 times more money back from the campaigns. In terms of core tools, Instantly is going to run you around $97 a month. Sales Navigator is around $100 a month. You can get like free licenses and free trials for that. HeyReach, $79 a month. And Close, their smallest plan is $19 a month. Plus then you'll of course have to pay a little bit for usage there. And of course, if you're inside Agent Velocity, you get like a 30% discount on all of these tools, obviously because we have private deals with them. But if you're not inside our mastermind, that of course is not the case. And leads are of course going to run you a bit more, depending on what you do. And did I? Yeah, no, that's good. And in terms of total monthly investments, around $500 plus leads, and we'll go through this as the last thing. But here you want to you can go and you can calculate your estimated ROI on what you can expect to make from this system, right? So if you're going to be contacting, let's say, 10,000 leads per month, and you have one SDR, let's say it's just you or whatever, and your average LTV is, let's say it's 20 grand, so it's a little bit on the lower side. 20 grand. Gross profit margin, let's put it to 70%. Cost per day per SDR, 80 is really the minimum you want to go for. Email meeting book rate, let's say you're not an absolute pro, so you're getting 0.2. Call conversion rates, 3% is pretty easy to reach. Server rate is a little bit lower than normally. Qualified rate, honestly, 50% is really low if you measured it from show-ups, and close rate, let's say, is 20%. Here, you can see that, okay, the investment on this setup would run you around 15.7x. And this is assuming that you're calling all of these leads. So obviously, it would be more, like your lead cost would actually be a lot more, because obviously you can't, with one SDR, you would probably be enriching only 2,000 leads per week. So you would probably be making a lot more than you actually would need to, because this obviously calculates from the whole number of leads, but if you only can call 2,000 people a month, you don't want to be enriching 10,000 of their phone numbers. But yeah, as the last thing, if you want to go and implement this yourself, you can go to the URL agencyvelocity.tools, right? So this is the URL, agencyvelocity.tools. Whatever. I'll link this also down below. .tools, and you can go and implement this yourself. I created like a checklist that you can follow here. It saves based on your own progress, so you can just make sure that you check through all of these sections yourself, and then in the end, you'll obviously, once you finish everything, you have a campaign ready to launch. And yeah, as a final note, if you want help with this, so if you don't want to figure this whole thing out yourself, you can just go press this. There's of course a lot of buttons that you can use to book a call with me to talk about our mastermind or talk about our done for you services where we do this for you, etc. So of course, feel free to do that. And if you enjoyed this video, I would greatly appreciate if you like it, comment, subscribe, do whatever. Because yeah, I'm back on YouTube, and that would just mean a lot to me. So yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye.